Okay, welcome everyone. We are live for Inside the Junior Reign, and today's topic is So You Want to Play College Hockey. My name is Ben Frank, and this is our Chief of Hockey Operations, Paul Esdell. I'm the president of the Junior Reign, and every Monday, almost every Monday, we do a show here on some of the key topics to you in the youth hockey community. And one of the biggest things we always hear are parents and players talking about their goals and their dreams of playing college hockey. And we spoke quite a bit about some of these topics in the past. We wanted to really focus in on what does that mean, what does that look like. So we're going to dive right into today, what does it mean to play college hockey and really get into some of the details of it. Before we dive in, whether you're watching live or via the replay, again, please like, share, comment on the posts, and a lot of you will be watching on the replays. We'll get back to those comments in the comments section or on our show for the future. Let us know different topics and things that you'd be interested in as well. But as we get into college hockey here, Paul, why don't you give a little bit first about your background in that obviously you played college hockey, and you've coached at the junior levels and put a lot of kids into college hockey. Maybe just give it an outline there so people know where we're coming from.
Sure, yeah. I think it starts actually back when with my dad. Right, my dad was a college coach and a career coach for 25 years. So he coached at the NCAA level at Ferris State and also at the CIS level in Canada at the University of Alberta for many years. So I was around it a lot, around college hockey, around college athletes. Then I was lucky enough to play at Brown University for 4 years. And then coaching junior hockey, our role in the BCHL and the top league, Tier 2 Junior A League in British Columbia in Canada was to send kids to prepare them for the NCAA, and that's their main goal. So I was able, there were 3 seasons, I was able to send quite a few kids to the next level.
Great. And I played hockey in the CS where your dad coached, not in the same place, the University of Toronto, so I have a little bit of different experience from the Canadian side of the university hockey. So from our playing experience and then your coaching experience in the junior league and now working with young kids, like you said, this is something we do. We do those goal meetings with players and things, and this is something, and parents, it comes up a lot, right? I just want my kid to play college hockey and for various reasons. So maybe, Paul, maybe you could start with some of the reasons maybe that we hear of why the goal is college hockey. Maybe sometimes it's something that you hear a lot too, is like the goal for future for kids, and why maybe it's attractive goal to parents or players.
Yeah, I think number one is for parents, and once your kid gets a certain age, they start to realize that, hey, education is really important. When they're 8, 9, 10 years old, maybe they're not thinking about a diploma, right? But as you get older in your teenage years and stuff, and you're going through the education system, you're starting to think about what's next after high school. Right, so I think for parents, it's very attractive because I think initially everyone's like, well, college is expensive.
Yeah.
How am I going to pay for this, right? Oh, my kid's a good hockey player. He's going to get a college scholarship. We'll be set. Or I'm going to invest my money now at the youth hockey level, make sure they have the best opportunities, and then it'll pay off down the road. And theoretically, that's a great, I think, a great idea and a great dream. Obviously, there's a lot of logistics that go into that to actually make that a reality. And I think we talked a lot about the last couple of weeks is about really putting your family, your child in the right environment to give them the most success, set them up for success, right? Putting them in that right success. And that's important to be having that first goal. We talked about that long-term goal and then bringing it down to short-term goals. So I think it's really discovering that college hockey may not be for everyone, right? And also understanding that college hockey is a very high level and very competitive now. As it's grown, right? Really, there's 2 avenues. There's the Canadian route, and that's in the the CIS, right? And then there's the U.S. college, right? And in the U.S. college, there's the NCAA, which has Division I hockey, Division III, which is the next step down, ability-wise and school-wise. There's different schools, usually smaller schools like Manhattanville, these kind of schools like that. And then there's the club hockey side of things at some of these schools that don't have. Some have it and some don't at the Division I level. Yeah. So there's lots of different avenues, right? But it's important that we don't just focus on, well, it's college scholarship or bust, right? Or this was a waste of time if my kid doesn't play college hockey. Because the reality is that this is a very lofty goal, and it's as big as a goal as playing professional hockey. Even playing in the minors, because there's a lot of different minor level leagues, right? And there's a lot of things that are going to go into getting to college hockey, right? And even have an opportunity to do that. So I think it's important that we first, we can have that goal, but we set ourselves up to succeed and have it in the right perspective that, hey, this is a possibility if I take care of, all these things down the road and I do the right things for the next, 10, 15 years, really.
And it comes back to a lot of things that we talk about on the show, right? Is this understanding why do we want what do we want out of this? Because there's different ways to approach wanting to play college hockey. Is it that your kid loves hockey and it'd be a cool experience to be a part of that atmosphere, or is it that we're investing a lot into this, we need to get something out of this with college hockey? And then so it's understanding what the purpose and where you want to go, and then also understand some of the nuances and the details of actually what this all looks like, because there's a lot of things that maybe as a parent of a young player, you're thinking, well, my kid's pretty good at hockey and it's an expensive sport and college is really expensive and I want them to have good education so that, I'd like them to get a college scholarship out of this. That would be great. That would be a good trade-off. There's a lot of things that people, the average, person who's starting their kid out in hockey doesn't know. Like you mentioned, just there's the Canadian University, there's Division I, there's Division III, there's club, and then there's what age, how many kids get a scholarship and what age do they get the scholarship? So what do you got to do before that? And then what do you do if you don't get a scholarship? And all these other little small pieces that those who haven't been through it, maybe as a player and a coach, may not understand.
Yeah, let's touch on some of those details. But before we get into that, let's talk about hockey. And I think it's important is that hockey is the vehicle, right? It is going to move you to different places if it's done the right way. Hockey is the vehicle to learn life lessons. The hockey is the vehicle to develop as a person. Hockey is the vehicle to become a man or woman, to go through all these experiences, to grow, right? It is potentially the vehicle to play past, you're 17, 18 years old of youth hockey, right? It's been the vehicle for yourself to go to the University of Toronto, get a degree, travel the world, myself to go to Brown University, have an Ivy League education that I wouldn't have had if I didn't play hockey. I know that, right? So it's all the vehicle, right? So it's like, it has to be put in the right frame of mind first, right? It's not just like, oh, I'm going to invest all this money and he's got to get a college scholarship, she's got a college scholarship, or it's all been a waste, right? It's really putting in the right mindset and having a plan in place, understanding, educating yourself on all the different logistics of it, and really from there, it's going to be up to your player, right? You provide the opportunity as a parent or a coach, you provide the opportunity, you provide the platform for them. But if someone doesn't want to do it, you don't want to do it, right? And I think for myself, I wanted to play. I saw, being around the University of Alberta, saw that kids could get an education, kids like me, that could get an education, play hockey, and continue that sport because they love to play the game. And that's really what it was for me. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like I didn't know where it was going to go, the hockey. It wasn't like this is my next step before I make it to the pros. It was, I knew education was really important to me, and it was important to my family, and hockey was really important to me, and I had a passion and love for it. And if I could mix these two together and really have a chance to play go to a good school and get an education and play hockey,
play at a meaningful level as well, right?
That was the dream and the goal, and I was lucky enough to do that. And there's a lot of factors that go in. There's there's timing, who saw you, when you saw you, all these things that came into it. And the reality is that it's not going to happen for everyone. But definitely, if you don't have the right plan in place and you don't educate yourself and have the knowledge to do it, then there's no chance, right? There is chances for everyone. Nowadays, the world is global. And everything's out there. All the education is out there. You just got to find the right people, find the right education, and you can set yourself up for success. Right? What the end goal is going to look like? Well, we don't know that, and we won't know that until it happens. But educating ourselves to set ourselves up, we can do that in the meantime.
Well, let's debunk some of the myths or some of the misconceptions right now. So a lot of times people who maybe are more familiar with other sports like football or basketball, you play in high school, and then as you graduate high school, you get a scholarship to go play basketball or football. Hockey's often very different, right? Between high school and college.
Yeah, so when kids graduate high school, 17 years old right now, some are 18, I think. Hockey at the college level is a higher level of hockey. So there's not a lot of the 17, 18-year-olds are going from youth hockey to college hockey. There's some kids maybe playing prep school on the East Coast that are maybe going at a younger age, that are in a prep school and a prep school system, and they're ready to advance and play college. So why is that not happening? It's not happening because the guys at the college hockey now level are more mature. They're men.
23, 24 years
So
old.
they're from anywhere from really from 18 to 24 years old. But the ages are getting older because what they're seeing now is at 17, 18, 19, kids just aren't ready yet. Physically, mentally, emotionally, all these things are just not ready yet to go to a college and make an impact, right? So they don't want to bring in a 17 or 18-year-old and just have them sit there on the bench and right. So
can you talk a little bit about the years of eligibility, because it's not based on age, right? It's not based on if you're 18 to 22. It's based on how many years of eligibility they get, no matter when they start.
Yeah, so you do have 5 years to finish 4 years, right? So you could get redshirt year if there's an injury or something like that. But most schools, most colleges, when you're going there, you're going for under the understanding that it's a 4-year program, right? But it's really year to year, right? So there's no. The other misconception is about full scholarships, right? A lot of people think, well, I'm going to get a college scholarship and it's taken care of 100%, no cost at all. And the reality is that's not the case. There's very few full scholarships now. There are some to some of the highest end players and students, right? But there's partials, there's three-quarters, right? And it's really on a year-to-year basis, right? So, for example, if I went to Brown the first year and I didn't keep up my grades, I'd be out. I wouldn't be playing the second, third, and fourth years. It's not a 4-year contract I've signed.
Yeah.
I've signed a year-to-year financial aid agreement. So at the Ivy League schools, like the Cornells, Browns, Yales, Princetons, all these schools, they don't have scholarships.
You don't even get athletic.
It's all based off of financial aid, which means it's based off of how much your parents make. So they go through your taxes, all this stuff, and you're awarded certain financial aid to go to those schools. Some of the other state schools, there are full scholarships, right? But a lot of the schools are doing now three-quarters, partial, right? They only have X amount of scholarship money per program, per sport.
And so how many players on a roster in a college hockey?
Yeah, and right, usually there's anywhere from 22 to 28 players, maybe sometimes more at the college level, right? So only 20 players play.
So maybe even just a handful of kids that are actually on full athletic scholarships.
Yeah,
usually 28 players.
Usually the highest ending kids. And every college and university is a little bit different, right? Some different programs, there's some roster rules, right? But I know at Brown at times we had 26, 27 kids on the roster, right? So think about what that looks like for practice. So you're fighting for your playing time every practice.
Yeah, well, I made University of Toronto, the CIS. Same thing with Canadian schools. They do financial aid. They don't do a full athletic scholarships. Now there's programs for hockey players to be on, but it's not athletic scholarships. And this is high-end hockey that we played the Michigans and the Bowling Greens and Boston Universities, and a lot of guys came from major junior to the CIS. That's a little different. There's another difference between CIS and the American is that you can come from major junior and go to Canadian university, but you can't do that to American university. Maybe we can get into that. But I made it as a walk-on to that team, and I was pumped and excited to make the team. And I played the exhibition games and practice and things. And the regular season starts, and I'm in the stands with a suit on and a clipboard doing the shots on goal, right? Yeah. And up to that point, I played youth hockey. I'd never not played in the game, right? So, and there's like 5 of us. It wasn't just me. There's like a whole line in the stands not playing games, practicing all week, competing, trying to get into the lineup, and then watching the games.
Yeah, totally, right? And so I just say Grant's comment there. Yeah, it's about your training and your discipline and passion. No question. It is about setting yourself up for success, right? Is what you're doing, how you're training, and your environment and culture. Those are the 2 things we talk about a lot about youth hockey. Those are so critical to set yourself up, right? And then the next part is if you want to play college hockey, number 1 is education, right? If you're not a good student, it makes it very hard to play college hockey. The better student you are, the more chances it gives you to play college hockey. It just opens the door for you, right? So the better student you are, the more colleges are going to be able to take you.
So maybe help explain it to people too. So for example, because as a college coach, right, depending on the school, they're going to have certain averages, requirements that you need on that team, whether it's scholarships, financial aid. You might be able to get certain kids academic scholarships to help with that, right? So if they bring in a super high-end player that has a real low, like just a minimum grade point average that they need in that team, and they need some other, and they're looking at other players that are similar, that player with the higher grade point average helps them, right? So that player now has more opportunity.
So say here's a good example. Say we're bringing in 6 new players to the team next year, right? There's what is called, what you're speaking of is the academic index, right? So what they're saying is, okay, so Paul's going to go to Brown his first year. We're bringing in one of 6 freshmen, and he's not a great student. Yeah. So we got to get him through. The eligibility center. Got to get him through admissions through Brown. We can just barely get him. Maybe out of a 10, he's a 4 on our academic index. We know as a freshman class, we need to be at Brown or wherever it is. We have to be at an 8 or a 9. So that means now, because of Paul's 4, we got to bring in 4 10s that are outstanding students, and obviously we want them to be good hockey players too. So it shifts how the dynamics of who they bring into the college, and it changes for every university.
So now some kid that's the same level of hockey player as at 10, but is an 8 on the academic index, doesn't get the offer, whereas the kid with 10 does maybe.
So ideally, number one is you take care of your education, and you're the best student you can, and it's even getting harder and harder every year. People are excelling at school, right? And ideally, obviously, is if you're a high-end hockey player and a high-end student, that gives you to any opportunity, any school. So those are really important things. And I just want to touch on what we brought up about the major, junior, and junior A. And what is that? So some people are not unclear what that is. So in Canada, they have all these different junior leagues. In the U.S., they have different junior leagues as well, right? So when
you're done youth hockey, right, you could go to junior hockey anywhere from 16 to 18.
Yes.
Youth hockey, midget AAA goes up to 18 AAA. Yeah. But okay, we're back. We got cut off there. Sorry, internet connection. What we were starting to get into was Paul was going to start talking about where does junior come into play here. We talked earlier about a lot of times kids don't start playing college hockey until the age of 20 or 19, 20. So a lot of times they finish youth hockey up through the 18 AAA or 18 AA, and then there's a couple of years in between when they start college, 1 or 2 years between they start playing college hockey. So there's even some of the prep school kids that you mentioned earlier. They may repeat a year at prep school and do an extra year of prep school. And then there's junior hockey that often comes before college hockey as well. And there's obviously different options there that impact your college hockey career.
Yeah, so I guess first thing to understand is what is junior hockey. So junior hockey is kids from 16 years old up until 20 years old, right? And if you can turn 21 in that year, but 16 to 20 is the average age. There are 16-year-olds that play at that level and don't play youth hockey and play at 16 when they're high-end players and ready to do that. And then there's what we call major junior, right, or tier 1 junior, and then there's tier 2 or junior A. And so it gets a little confusing. This is a landscape of what's out there. So just quickly, there's what is called the Western Hockey League up in Canada. There are some American teams in the Western Hockey League. The Spokane Chiefs, Everett Silvertips, there's some teams there anyways, and they're all over Canada. Those are Western League teams. Those are kids that are what are called, it's now called major junior. So that's a major junior level, and these kids are playing up until they're 20, and then what they are awarded if they finished X amount of years they're awarded some money towards their CIS for Canadian University. Mm-hmm. So kids that play in the major junior, so this is the Western Hockey League, Ontario Hockey League, QMJHL, Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. I may be missing, I don't know how much, I think that's all of them. I may be missing one of there, but that's major junior, and those are not eligible to play at the NCAA level. So they're not able to play college hockey in the United States.
They've lost their amateur status.
Yeah, exactly, right? So they lost it, but being in the U.S. and U.S. college hockey being very big and a ton of Division I, Division III schools, there's another route you can go to be eligible to stay as an amateur, and that is the Junior A route in Canada. So that is the BCHL, which is the British Columbia Hockey League, which I coached in. There's the Alberta Junior Hockey League, Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League, Manitoba Hockey League, Ontario Hockey League. There's some Junior B Ontario leagues, different leagues like that. And then the big one in the U.S., the couple big ones in the U.S. is the USHL, which is sometimes they call it tier one, right? This is the top league in the U.S., top junior league that's sending the most kids to NCAA. Then there's the NAHL, North American Hockey League. And then there's some other lower ones. I think there's called an ECHL. There's an AJHL, which is the Atlantic Junior Hockey League. There's a couple other, and then there's obviously the Western States Hockey League that we have in these areas.
There's NA3.
There's NA3. So there's some, the highest, we have the Western States ones. So the highest levels there is USHL and NAHL. And then in Canada, usually is the BCHL, AJHL, those ones. So those kids are playing junior hockey and looking to play college hockey. They can maintain their status. They can go to finish their high school. They can take some part-time classes in college if they still want, depending on the program. They have junior hockey. And then if they're good enough as hockey players and students, then that's when they would move on to the NCAA.
And the way it's been explained to me for the United States, directly from some of the guys over at USA Hockey, is the tier one junior hockey is those players don't pay for anything. They don't pay for their equipment. They don't pay for living expenses. They don't pay. Everything's covered, but they're not getting paid because they would lose their amateur status for NCAA. Tier 2, they don't pay to play hockey. So a lot of times they'll still have to figure out their own living expenses, food, whatever, stuff like that, a car, things like that. And then at Tier 3, you're still paying to play hockey, similar to youth hockey. Maybe some things are subsidized, but there's some kind of team fees that are paid to be able to be on that team. So there's different levels of junior hockey. And similar to what you were starting to talk about, there's different levels of college hockey. There's Division 1, which a lot of schools have some athletic scholarships. Ivy Leagues do not. There's Division 3, right, which does not have athletic scholarships, but has things like financial aid and things, and it still has some great hockey programs there, still a high level of play. And then there's club hockey, right, which just because you're playing hockey at college doesn't mean that you're playing for an NCAA Division I program and off scholarships. There's a lot of schools. There's no Division I in California yet. There's a lot of schools that have hockey programs and the club hockey side of things.
Right. It's more recreational, intramural. It's not recognized by the NCAA, right? But still, there's
some good programs that practice quite a bit, and you play in front of your school and things like that. But there's no incentives as far as, and it's not they're not traveling as much, and they don't think there's bigger budgets and stadiums and all that.
Right. And then on the female side, there is Division I, Division III hockey as well, and there's great opportunity right now for female hockey players as well to play at the college level. So there's those opportunities as well. So, but it's really interesting to talk about college hockey because the programming, it goes from youth hockey, right, and then it goes to junior hockey, which junior hockey tends to be more like the pro kind of model, where it's like a lot of games, a lot of travel at some of the leagues, right, and then the college programming now looks kind of more like if you're set up right in youth hockey, right. But the college hockey is now you're a student athlete. That's number one. So maintaining your education is critical because if you don't have the grades and you don't get through, if you're not eligible, you cannot play.
Out of it,
right? And looking at a typical week, I just want to go through like a typical week of college hockey would be, every Monday to Thursday you would practice. So you would have obviously all your different classes that you're taking, and then you'd be on the ice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Mondays are usually tough days like battle practices and some conditioning and stuff at that level, right? And then Tuesdays similar to that, and then they taper down into some special teams, that kind of stuff. But you're also in the weight room 2 to 3 days a week as well. So you have on-ice and off-ice workouts that are high intensity, and usually they're later in the afternoon. Some programs will do in the morning, a little bit of both. Sometimes there's skill sessions in the morning, right, if you're part of that. So, maintain that, and then so you make it through the week, and then usually what you play is you would play on a Friday night, Saturday night kind of schedule, and then usually sometimes it changes, but Sunday would be off kind of thing. So you're just doing that over and over and over again.
So it's interesting, because coming into college, a lot of students are coming into college. They have a new level of coursework and responsibility and accountability and things, and they have to keep their grades up so you don't get kicked out of college or get put on academic probation. If you get put on academic probation, you're not eligible to play. That was the same thing with me in the Canadian university. And so a lot of students have adjustment time just to keep up with the coursework. So you're coming in as a hockey player, you have to do your classes during the day, you have to keep your grades up to a certain level. As soon as the day is done with your classes, you're going to the rink. So for me, same thing, like Monday to Thursday practices, and you're at the rink for probably 4 hours because you go an hour before practice. Sometimes usually some meetings or something like that before practice, warm up, whatever, get dressed. On the ice, 2 hours usually, sometimes with an hour and a half, but then we do some skill work afterwards. After practice is over, there's always something, video, team psychologist, another meeting, whatever that is, right? You get out of there, it's, 8, 9 o'clock at night. You got to do your homework or whatever it is for school the next day. And the same thing again Tuesday, same thing again Wednesday, Thursday, Friday and Saturday, a game on each day. If it's a road, if you're on the road, so half of them are at home and then half on the road, then you're on the bus Friday morning and then Saturday, and the expectations get the grade up. So sometimes you hear now, like with youth hockey schedules, like, I can't do practice, got homework or something, right? and I get it all, but if you want to play college hockey,
Yeah.
these are the lessons to start learning how to manage this stuff now, because it's when you start at college hockey with the coursework, and the teachers aren't going to be, feel sorry for you, the coaches aren't going to feel sorry for you to not keep up with all that stuff.
Yeah, it's a great rude awakening. I think even for myself when I went there, and we had 6 players in my freshman class, and I think I was lucky enough not to be honest, but I think 2 out of the 6 were on academic probation after the first semester.
Yeah.
And it was just a complete rude awakening of the commitment level of education, the amount of time you had to put into your schooling, and then also your athletics, right? And I think that's combining those and learning how to organize yourself, how to time manage yourself. These are things that are really, sometimes you don't learn these really at, going to high school, right? It's a lot of people, a lot of kids that nowadays high school is easy for kids or whatever. So is now, and now you're looking at, this type of schooling, this type of training, this type of intensity. It's really challenging. This is why I love the college game, and I love the college life and the atmosphere, because it really develops people for success down the road.
When you show up practice after a full day of school, and you're trying to work hard to get your grades up because it's competitive in the classroom, you show up, there's 28 guys on the roster, you better bring it to practice every single day too, and not be late, and have a great attitude and work your tail off and get to the weight room and outwork the other guy. You're trying to get in the lineup at the same time.
Well, and that's what the college model develops, and it makes sense because this is why players are now going to the NHL at later ages, and they're coming from college, because they're getting there at 19, 20 years old and have anywhere from, some kids do leave early, right, the high-end players, but anywhere from 2 to 4 years of this programming of training, right, how you train in your environment. Think about that. You're in the weight room, you're on the ice, school, balancing all these things you have to balance to grow up as a man or a woman, and then becoming ready to play at the higher levels after that. But the model is really a development model, right? It's less games, more practicing, more training, right? So it's a lot of things that USA Hockey talks about, we talk about a lot, is where do you get better, right? You get better in practice, right? So at the college level, you're on the ice and you're in the weight room, right? And that's where you're getting better in practice. You're in the film room. You're not just sitting on a bus traveling from game to game to game, right? Obviously, there are some travel with college hockey, but it is more of a development model, and they're developing not just athletes, they're developing people, right? And students, and that's real student athlete. And it's really great for kids to really grow up, and it's really something that model is showing that it's becoming more attractive to the higher level, the pro leagues and National Hockey League levels, because these guys coming out of college now are way more mature and way more developed physically and mentally, and ready to step into the NHL game and make an impact.
Great. Awesome. So hopefully everyone, you got a lot out of that. We'd love to hear your questions and comments in the comments section. I'm sure we'll dive into some of this stuff even more, maybe in the future, about how you actually start going about contacting colleges and getting seed, and what's important and when, and those types of things, which we have talked about in some previous episodes. Paul, any final words as we wrap up the show today?
I think sticking to finding the right environment and training and having that dream for kids is great. And it always comes back to, because I hear it all the time from the highest levels to the lowest levels, if it's not fun, you're not going to take it very far, right? So it's got to be fun. Make sure you're coming to the rink and you're having fun. Practices are fun. Playing the game is fun. Play for the right reasons. Make sure your kids have a love and passion for it, and they're in the right environment, because if they have that, you never know where it's going to go. And the worst case scenario is they develop as a great person and player and are part of the game in some way, and use that as a vehicle somehow, whether to teach your kids one day to be a great hockey fan, or wherever it is, to spread the game, spread the message of hockey is such a powerful thing. It's such a powerful sport. We've seen tragedy recently, and we can just see how strong the hockey community is, and how, when it's done right, it can be so positive for people and make such a big change in people's lives. And I know that's done it for me. So I think just having perspective on that is important.
Right. Yeah. College scholarship is not the measure of whether you had a successful hockey career or experience.
Right.
Understanding these things and having goals are awesome, but knowing that the amazing things we can get out of the game every single day, and how it can make us who we are and give us the experiences with our family and friends that it does.
Well said.
Okay. Thanks so much, everyone. We'll see you next Monday at 3 p.m. Pacific for Inside the Junior Reign.